Thank you to Sakuraco and TokyoTreat for sponsoring today's video. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So it has been, I believe it's probably been 2 months since I've done another drawing your guys' OCs video, and I mentioned before that I wanted to try my best to do one probably every month. I'm not sure if I'm able to do that just because of how sporadic sometimes my schedule is, but I'm gonna try my best to keep myself to that whenever I can. So for May, I've once again selected 4 characters for us to draw together today. So I have kind of like a template very similar or like reminiscent of the 6 fan art challenge. I believe it's probably similar proportion. I just made it so that it's only 4 characters rather than the 6 so that I am not limited to the amount of layers that I need to use. So for our very first character, I'll probably put the stuff on the screen as well. Hopefully I'll remember, but it'll be labeled at the very end to make sure that I'm crediting the character and the person. But right away, I've already scrapped the very first sketch. Unfortunately, whenever I do these types of videos, or even just starting off a video and I haven't drawn that day, I do get a little bit more rusty, or the first drawing kind of gets sacrificed. So I needed to get a little bit of the sketching out of the way, deleted the first sketch, and now we're on to the actual proper sketch for our first character, which happens to be, I believe their name is Byebye, I think. So this is Hot Rod Pot Pot, which I think is a very cute name. Their OC, which is kind of like a girly pop idol kind of OC, which I think is very cute. I love the color scheme, and I've mentioned many times in the past that I feel like I don't draw enough characters that are more like centered around the color red. So I wanted to tackle a red character kind of like right away. And what more can I ask for than a kind of like idol-esque concept? So unfortunately, with the size of the boxes, I usually prioritize more of like portrait and or like making sure their face is in view. So this is going to be a reminder for you guys as well that if you want to submit your OCs for me to draw, I am taking them basically from the community tab in kind of like where my YouTube is. So if you click on my YouTube, at the very top, there should be something that says like community. If you click there, there should be a way for you guys to post your own images and posts and stuff. And that is where I'm going to be selecting from more like future drawing your OCs videos. So please submit your OCs there if you haven't. And please limit yourself to only maybe like 4 characters max. Every so often, because I don't want you guys spamming OCs, as that's not really the purpose of this. I'm just going to be able to pick OCs whenever I can, whenever I'm making these videos. And if you can, or if you haven't already, please make sure to at least include 1 close-up of your character's face, and hopefully it's not part of like a super large file scheme, as YouTube does get a little bit crunchy. I will find a different method for you guys to submit your OCs in the future, but for now I think it's kind of fun for you guys to also be able to see and interact with other people's OCs within the community. So for now I'm just going to keep it like this. So for Byebye, like I mentioned, there is going to be a lot of red. Now with that being said, the coloring portion is going to look a little wonky, but I feel like it looks the most drastically different for this character in particular. So the way how my webcam kind of captures color makes things look a little bit more intense for certain colors and duller for other colors. So I think purples sometimes look a little bit dull, and reds and oranges look very vibrant. So please don't be alarmed that she looks very lobster red right now. I promise you at the very end, when you see the actual file of the drawings with the time-lapse footage and the actual illustration at the very end, she's not like super saturated like this, I promise you. So hopefully you won't be too alarmed. And I do apologize that it looks very kind of like burnt almost. But I think the color scheme is very cute. Like I said, it's like kind of like variations of different red colors. I love kind of like these big twin tail drill type of hair aesthetic. It's very reminiscent of like the older shoujo-esque kind of very girly pop kind of aesthetic, and I like the red ribbons. I think the outfit is also very cute. I did wish that maybe I chose like a little bit of a different pose to give her more of like that idol-like-esque aesthetic, more of like an obvious look, as well as like being able to portray her poofy kind of like fluffy sleeves, which I think are super cute. But in terms of the drawing process, Basically the same thing. We did our rough sketch. I will fill in the background color. We'll fill in our main rough colors. Then after that, I will change the color of my sketch to kind of like make everything look super soft. And right now we're working on cleaning it up and rendering. So basically I'm going to be sharpening up and darkening a lot of the lines to hopefully bring a little bit more attention to the lines that I want, as well as like we're finishing up some of the shading, adding some cleaner areas, getting rid of some of my sketchy lines and all that to hopefully finish the illustration or drawing. But I'm treating it very much like how I treat my sketch pages. I think moving forward, I think it could be fun to maybe do either a set of 4 and 1 finished illustration, or if I will do a set of 2 and maybe 1 finished like illustration. Because as much as I like doing more of these sketchier versions so that I can always sketch as many characters as I possibly can, I would like to do at least like 1 finished illustration, maybe with like a full background, proper lighting and all that for someone's OC, or maybe I'll pick it from one of the OCs that I've already drawn of the 4. Could be a fun idea to do. I'll still like play around with it because nothing's like super set in stone. But I do appreciate that you guys often will send me your OCs that are kind of like of the idol aesthetic or idol AU if you have it, or just idol characters, because like I said, I always like that aesthetic. I think it's very fun to do posing, the lighting, the character outfits are always fun to do. So I appreciate you guys trying to cater to my interests, but feel free to send me any OCs that you guys have. But like I mentioned, try to keep in mind their faces as well, just to make sure that they look clear enough so that I can probably interpret it a little bit better in my style. But thank you, Hot Rod Pot Pot, for sending me your OC. She's so lovely and cute, so hopefully I did her a little bit of justice here. So we'll move on to the next character quite soon. So before we tackle the next OC, let me talk about some snacks from TokyoTreat and Sakuraco. Time to experience limited edition and seasonal snacks from Japan from the comfort of your own home with these lovely monthly snack boxes. TokyoTreat is a fun and exclusive monthly snack box that is packed with some of Japan's coolest and funnest treats. Each month you'll get a Japan exclusive premium snack, a limited edition chip, and noodles. They always have a fun variety of snacks ranging from sweet to salty, even to savory. And already from this particular box, I can see some of my favorite flavors from this month's box. While Sakuraco is a monthly Japanese artisan snack box that supports local snack makers across Japan, each box is carefully crafted with traditional and seasonal snacks that are hard to come by outside of Japan, like mochi, dorayaki, senbei, and even more. I'm already eyeing a lot of the snacks here as I love citrus flavors, and I can see a lot of citrus flavored type of snacks in this box. But the box also includes a signature Japanese tea and exclusive homeware item. So the homeware item for this month is a bit different as it's Bloom's hand-picked ceramic plates, and you basically get one of 2 designs. So I got this really beautiful indigo plate, and I believe the plate was inspired by Japan's Seto Inland Sea, and it has this very beautiful kind of like indigo, almost like subtle gold-ish color, and it's like just a really beautiful color combination in my opinion. Both boxes come with a 24-page cultural guide booklet, and it includes information regarding ingredients and allergens of each of the snacks, but also informs you of little tidbits revolving around culture and traditions in Japan. I'm always delighted to see anything to do with Osaka or Dotonbori, as my friends and I spent about, I think, 2/3 of our Japan trip probably just in Osaka, so we went to Dotonbori a lot. Each month has a different theme, meaning that you get to try out a whole new selection of new treats and snacks every month as well. For example, TokyoTreat's theme for the month of May is Osaka Snacktacular, while Sakuraco's box theme for the month of May is Heritage of Hiroshima. A lot of the snacks, like I mentioned in the Sakura box, definitely piqued my interest, but we have to try out the tea first as usual. The Sakuraco team has created a special selection of tea that has a very strong, kind of like roasted green tea flavor, which is definitely one of my favorites, and I think it will pair nicely with a lot of these both savory, salty, and also a lot of the sweeter snacks in this box. So for me, I had a lot of interest in any of the citrus or like lemon or setochi, sriracha kind of flavor, so I was really eyeing a lot of these snacks for particularly that. But this Kyoho Grape Chocolate Crunch kind of caught me by surprise. The packaging is very cute, but I was not expecting the snack to actually look like this. But it had a wonderful crunch and very, very strong grape flavor. Despite its appearance, it's very pleasant, but I really love the grape flavor of this one. I also had the Setochi Hasaku jelly. The texture is very, very like soft. It doesn't feel like solid jelly. It's kind of like a little bit more textured, if that makes sense. But I also learned that there's another new citrus called Hasaku, which I never heard of before. As for TokyoTreat, the Kit Kat Gold is always a fun flavor. I love trying out the different Kit Kats, but this one's one of my favorite. It's a very nice, kind of like caramelly, familiar flavor, if that makes sense. At least to me, it feels a little bit more familiar. But also really enjoyed the Pie no Mi Maple Butter Bites. One, because the packaging was super cute and it's a little Canadian feeling, but the flavor from it was also very, very nice. I do like these little pie kind of snacks. I think they're very cute and delicious. But my favorite from this box by far has to be the sour lemon gummies. I super love gummies, and I mentioned many, many times right now that I love kind of like citrus flavor. These are like not overpoweringly sour, but it has definitely like a good kick, and it has like a super great lemon flavor as well. So highly recommend these. So if you would like to get a box for yourself or want to give these as a lovely gift to your family or friends or even your partner, then do check out the links in the description. Thank you again to Sakuraco and TokyoTreat for sponsoring today's video. Now back to drawing another one of your guys' OCs. So kind of like piggybacking a little bit onto the previous color scheme of the other character, we are going to pick a character also kind of with a little bit of red still present in their color scheme to a certain extent. So this character is by Shinso Hitoshi, and I just think this character just looked really cute. I feel like their aesthetic is a little bit more up my alley, if anything. So I do find this character like quite cute. I don't know if they're more like a nervous character or maybe they're a little bit more maybe meek or reserved, I'm not too sure. But I thought the outfit, the aesthetic was actually quite nice, as well as the hand. So hopefully I'm interpreting this correctly, that they have like a mechanical hand. Now, initially in my sketch that you can kind of see here and there, that I had two hands were going to be visible in this piece, but I ended up only making it the one hand because in the reference, I actually can't see whether or not the other hand is mechanical or not. So I decided to not take that chance and just maybe leave the one that is visible in the reference to be visible in the piece as well. And I had a lot of fun just making it very simple looking, but making it mechanical, hopefully. When we start to color and clean up, it just looks kind of fun, giving the bolder lines, having like the little seam where maybe the metal is kind of like welded together and bolted. So that was very fun to work on. But also, with these drawings, I'm always debating also with the format if I should just draw them all separately on their own canvases, because I do run into the problem occasionally where the characters will overlap one another. So for Byebye, I ended up kind of pushing the opacity down for her a little bit so that I could see this character's head and just like the entire form of everything kind of like all at once without it being kind of covered up, so that I can kind of like pick and choose whether or not I want this character to be in the front or do I want the other character that I drew first to be in the front instead. So because we can see still parts of Ibby's curls, I decided to keep her kind of like pushed towards the back and have this character take up a little bit more of the space. I did end up shrinking him a few times, I think, before we landed on the particular size. He did turn out a little bit larger than I think the other characters that I ended up drawing, but I think it's okay. I did have a lot of fun just like rendering and coloring this piece. Also, I don't think I shown too much of the footage at this point of like when I start to actually render the character. It was a little bit up in the air whether or not the character had freckles or not, so I was not too sure if it was just like blush being applied to the face, which could have been highly possible, but I was like, or plausible, I guess. But I kind of went with a little bit of like the freckles route, which I will end up adding a little bit later once we actually start to finish up with the rough colors, and then eventually I will, merge my layers and start to render. Also, for some parts of the hair, I ended up adding a little bit more kind of like wispy, slightly curly-ish hair pieces at the very end, because I realized I made his hair a little bit more flat than maybe intended. I'm not too sure why I did that, but I tried my best to fluff it out a little bit more and curl some pieces in and out a little bit more here and there. So hopefully it's not too off. Also, I like the color combination for the hair and the eyes. So I did end up leaning the hair color a little bit more cooler in terms of the shadow colors. So for red-haired or like red as a color in general, shading sometimes makes it a little bit difficult. I definitely lean towards adding both purple and blue into red and then neutralizing if we have like greens, or leaning it more towards like yellow or brown, I guess. So for me, I did end up making things a lot cooler here, but I think also is because I wanted it to have a little bit more and the same color as his eyes. I just really liked it, as well as adding a little bit of blue here and there that I chose from the background color. So that's gonna have a little bit of influence as well to my color selection, which is oftentimes the reason why that I like to either select the color for the background that I know I want to keep, and or painting the background completely or as much as I can to give me context for the character, so that I can pull some of the background color into the illustration of the character itself. So hopefully things overall will look a little bit more cohesive. And you can kind of see a little bit more of that blue color peeping through. I used it a little bit for the shading for the white areas, as well as in our kind of like beige tan shirt, overshirt, I guess you could say. I added a little bit of the blue there, as well as a little bit in the metal, but I don't want lean everything to blue. But I do like the contrast that if the base color is a little bit more orange or yellow leaning, having like blue or purple as like the complementary color for the shadow and making it very more cool toned is just something that I like to gravitate towards too. So it's definitely more of a preference, and maybe has a little bit of rhyme and reason here and there, but it's just like something I just like definitely just prefer. Also, I guess at this point, this is probably the clearest time that you're probably going to see the freckles. So I didn't go overboard with it because, like I mentioned, I wasn't too sure if that's actually part of the design or if it's just like more of a texture brush for blush being applied. But other than that, added a little bit of glare to the glasses for some fun. And like any other of like my, I guess like 6 fan art challenge, or even drawing your OCs videos or drawings, if I'm using these kind of like square rectangular backgrounds with blocks of color, I will always add a white streak all the way around, similar to my sketch pages, just to make sure the character sticks out into the front. But that is our second character for Shinzo Hitoshi. So thank you for submitting your OC. I had a lot of fun drawing them, and hopefully I didn't butcher them too much. But we are moving on to our third character. So kind of like completely different, I think, color scheme wise. Well, I mean, it's like leaning more towards like the lighter aesthetic, but I was more drawn to wanting to potentially work with this color scheme as well, keeping everything more light, and potentially just wanting to tackle a character that has also like lighter lashes, if that makes sense, or like kind of like the eye line. So I do have a habit of drawing characters or rendering eyes in a very particular way. So this character, let me look on my phone to see if I can pull up their character reference here. This is by Byebye, and this is their wolf boy OC named Timber, which I think is a very cute name for a wolf boy OC. But it seems like they're very athletic. I do like kind of like this green to orange color for the entire color scheme, and then keeping his kind of like fur coat and hair and aesthetic as much as like more towards like just white and a little bit of black here and there to leave more room for that green to orange combination to pop through, which I actually really like this color combo. I think it's really cute. It does remind me a little bit of like citrus kind of feeling, so it's something that I really like about that color scheme for some reason. But the character itself, like, I feel like they gave me a little bit more of like big golden retriever dog-ish energy in a way. So a little bit more of like cutesy, but like, how do I explain it? You guys know what big golden retriever dog energy I feel like is. So that's kind of like what I wanted to go for. So just more kind looking, keeping, for the most part, hopefully him not looking too thin, if that makes sense. Like, I wanted to make sure he's a little bit slightly bulkier than the 2 other characters that I ended up drawing. And then kind of like right away plopped in the green for the background, because I guess like the pose that I chose for the character did not really show too much of the cute color combination that I talked about earlier. I decided to change the background color to be somewhat similar to his eye color, as well as that green throughout the entire outfit, so that we have it present somewhere. And then after that, we start to fill in the colors. So selection tool, fill option, alpha locking that, and we can just start to paint. So started with the skin, working with the eyes, and then working on the clothing and the hair next. So other than like having red as one of the colors that I find hard to sometimes like color and shade depending on the color choices, white is going to be something that I have fun shading more than anything, but I hate adding like highlights, if that makes sense. Because if I start off with like pure white, which I ended up not doing for this one, it's kind of like an off-white. It's a little bit more muddier gray, so that potentially I could add more white if I wanted to for highlights or anything. I don't think I add anything that's like super bright because it's already still very light and it's very hard to see. But then for the color black, I like having kind of like the opposite. Adding highlights or like subtle lighting color is like my favorite part, and it feels like very opposite of how I treat like the color white. So for white, I have fun adding the shadow colors and messing around with the hues and stuff to make sure that things still remain vibrant. And then for the color black, we kind of go the opposite way. So like for highlights or adding in a bit more light, I try to sneak in as many colors as I can. So things that, you know, for black color, it doesn't read completely flat. Similar with white, I don't want it to read completely flat, so I don't want to use just straight up gray for either of them. But let's talk about the eyes. So kind of like in, I forget what video I talked about it in, maybe it was like rendering, I think it's how I colored eyes or how I render eyes. I talk about steps that I do almost default for every eye, but it doesn't work for every eye, if that makes sense. So for my OC Moriko, she has like a lot much like of a lighter eye color than the rest of my OCs, but her eyelash or lash line, her whatever you want to call that, like the outline for the shape of the eyes is still dark. I have a preference of doing that because I like having contrast regardless of what the eye color is. But there's a lot of characters out there that I find that have more of like a lighter lash line that has to be very like prominent. Like it's more of like a point, I guess, if that makes sense. It's not like it's an option per se. I've seen this kind of like floating around on Twitter before, that some characters who have white eyelashes or white hair, and some people like choose to ignore the white eyelashes and render it as normal. I feel like I do fall into that trap sometimes, so I wanted to be a little bit more conscious about not making the eyelashes completely dark and having that contrast. But I feel like every time I've drawn lashes in this way, it feels very chunky and not as natural as I would like them to be. So that's kind of like one reason I chose this character for me to draw, because it would give me an opportunity to check whether or not I could potentially not default into that kind of method of how I draw eyes, and then, you know, try to make the lashes stand out enough that they're not like pure black, but I don't want them to stand out so much that it's distracting, if that makes sense. Because one of my VTuber Oshis, I think it's Marie FD or Maddie FD on YouTube, and she also kind of has like the same lashes where it's lighter on the bottom and the top. And every time I've drawn fan art of her, I'm like, the lashes look so bulky. But I feel like if it's in their kind of like reference sheet and it's like very prominent in the character design, I feel like I should draw it properly. So hopefully I didn't do this character injustice and they still look okay, because I do like what like lighter lashes look like. I think they make the eyes look also very beautiful, and you know, the lashes look very voluminous. So I wanted to do it some justice here and there. But this character was super fun to draw, because like I said, I still like coloring characters that have like either white hair or white clothing, lighter aesthetic as well, because I can play around with adding skin tone for some warmer areas. We can add some blue, or in this case added green to his shirt color to kind of add a little bit more of like a cooler shadow as well. But yeah, very cute character, had a lot of fun, very fun color scheme, and I really do like kind of like that orange to green color combination. So very cute OC in color combination aesthetic for Timber. So thank you very much for submitting your OC for me to draw. Hopefully also didn't butcher this character, because I was definitely worried about the whole eyelash thing, but also I ended up taking like a huge break in between drawing the first two characters, and then I started the sketch for Timber and then stopped in the middle of it. So hopefully the energy didn't carry through, that I was like kind of tired. But thank you, Berry Dot, for submitting your OC, and Lil Merc will work on the fourth and last character for at least this part or section for drawing your OCs, because I'll definitely try again to do another set for the month of June. I'll probably take a break in July, but we'll see. I'll explain a little bit later. Okay, so we are working on our fourth and last kind of character today. I'm gonna explain a little bit what I mean by that. Technically, it's the last of this batch, but I'll have like very small extra footage of something else at the very end, which I'll explain more, or kind of like the reason on why I ended up including that one at the very end in a little bit. So this character is by... hopefully I have this correct. Desperate Effort, and this is their OC, Ellis. Ellis? I believe it's Ellis, yes. So they are a gender fluid OC, and they have like kind of like a very cute purple aesthetic that I really liked. Also, I was drawn in immediately. One, your art style is very cute, but then two, the glasses. I have like a mutual that I talk about this with, because we were talking about their OC, I believe Enzo, and then my OC Selwyn, that we like funky glasses. Selwyn's is quite tame, but like we were talking about like heart-shaped glasses, star-shaped glasses, all those kinds of like either the glasses frames or accessories. They're very fun and cute, and I liked these ones a lot. I was not sure if they're like just normal like tinted glasses, or maybe if they're more like towards goggles, but I really liked the kind of like heart gemstone like, or like rhinestone-esque kind of shape to them. I think it's just very fun, but also just in general the character aesthetic is very cute, very purple color scheme wise, but I like the accents of like the white, the many different kind of like shades, either from dark gray to kind of like black, where you can kind of see it in the hair as well. So really wanted to draw this character. I was debating, because there was another idol OC that I was gonna pick, but this one just like nudged it out just by a smidge, so I'll definitely keep that other OC for the next batch in the future. Yeah, this character, very, very fun to draw as well. Thought it'd be cute to have the character prop up the glasses kind of like just a bit forward on the top of their forehead in terms of the pose, and then having the hair for the OC kind of like swish towards the right hand side. One, to kind of like make sure I don't cover too much of, or having the hair be covered too much by the two hands that I have up, because I don't know if you can tell, I gave this character unfortunately baby hands, like very tiny hands, because I wanted them to fit in the frame of the boxes that I had, which is probably not a good idea, but that's kind of how they are right now. I do try my best to make them a little bit bigger later on by liquefying, but I didn't liquefy them like all that much, so they still remain quite tiny, so apologies about that. A part of me wishes that I chose a bit of a different pose. One, we'll avoid the baby hands, but two, I wanted to show more of the earrings. I wish I could on the right ear. You only can see like a very small glimpse of it, but I think it would have been cute, because not only do I like kind of like funky glasses, I love kind of like neat jewelry, or like earrings more specifically, or even necklaces occasionally. Less like chains, but like any type of accessories on your OCs I think is just always fun to do. So I wish I could have included a little bit more. If anything, every time I've done any of these like drawing your OCs video, kind of like more towards this particular format, so like drawing 4 onto one canvas, and they're fairly like close to one another, I do wish that either I drew them individually so that I can give them more of like an extravagant pose, or something that's a little bit more or less restrictive, I guess in this case. That, or I wish I just, I don't know, made the spaces in between them bigger so that I could do the same thing, because I do feel a little restricted whenever I have to draw within the boxes, and I think this is like a prime example where I tried my best to keep the arms or in the wrist inside the box, but then have the hands like exceed outside of the box, but then in turn I kept them still small so that they didn't have like a super big overlap, which is unfortunate. Maybe I'll like alternate. I'll alternate Or we'll see. I was gonna say maybe I'll do like a bonus video every so often where I'll take one of the previously drawn OCs to make like a full illustration of. Because that way, also, if you guys are the artist behind the OC, if you have like feedback being like, oh, their hair is actually a little bit lighter, or like their hair should be longer, maybe the eye color was incorrect, you can definitely correct me in the comments. I really do not mind. These are your OCs, so I would like to do them justice, but there's obviously going to be things either I missed or misinterpret, or I guess this is like a strange problem sometimes to have. My colors that sometimes I use for the characters might be different than maybe what you initially put, only for the sole fact that I always have a warm filter on my phone, and I keep all my references on my phone so that I don't have them on screen blocking or like, you know, intercepting with the footage or anything like that, so that I can always pan to whatever character reference I'm using. And oftentimes either I draw the character more saturated, slightly more warmer, and slightly more darker than maybe intended. Hopefully that's not the case, and hopefully I was able to kind of like slowly correct it a little bit here and there, but there might be like a slight color difference. But also the colors at the end should be at least a little bit more accurate than the footage you're always seeing, because like I mentioned, oranges or like red and yellow I feel like get super poppy and vibrant on my webcam, but like purples and blues kind of suffer. Greens actually are pretty good, I think. I don't know if it's kind of like more of the in-between color, because like I said, it's kind of like yellows intense, blues a little bit more subdued, so maybe green being in the middle ground is kind of like in a happier place, if anything. But this character was fun. I also am biased towards characters that also wear gloves. If I don't have to draw like fingernails, that's absolutely great. And I love adding like the little seams for clothing or like fabric material. As well, I guess for the mechanical hand, it was a bit easier for me to draw as well, because I could easily segment the joints and then add a little seam where potentially things could get welded or put together for the metal. So that's also very fun. I think it's just easy for me to create dimension for fingers. Because adding the seam, you can kind of see like where the side of the finger is, and it kind of creates a little bit more depth. But then also having no fingernails, I don't really have to care too much about the angle of where the front part of the finger is facing per se. Sometimes it's helpful, but you know, other times it's just a pain. I tried also keeping the, what is it called, like the eye shines and the pupil a little bit larger on these eyes. I think I did end up making the eyes slightly larger as well. And I'm just noticing right now, which I think I will change at the very end for the final post of all the characters together, but it will be off for the video as well as in the time lapse. I'm going to move this character's mouth more towards the center. I don't know why when I was drawing them, their mouth was offset. Like it's heavily towards the right hand side of the canvas rather than the left, but I will straighten it out at the very end. So whoops, I should have paid a little bit more attention to where I was putting that. But I think we're approaching the end for this one. This was a very fun character for me to draw as well. I do kind of like this, how to explain it? It's kind of like cutesy aesthetic, but almost like formal, not business attire. How do you explain that? Kind of aesthetic I really like. So it kind of combined a few different clothing types and aesthetics all together that I liked in general. But then also purple is always a fun color to use. From kind of like fun, funky glasses, always fun, cute earrings. So yeah, very cute character. So thank you, Desperate Effort, for sending me your OC Ellis for me to draw. Hopefully I did them justice. And yeah, okay. So one last thing that I want to talk about at the very end of this. So despite hopefully drawing these four okay, I guess, I kind of wanted to draw or redraw the first character, Byebye, but I ended up liking a little bit more and more as we went through the other characters, so I ended up not redoing that character. But I think from the previous session that I ended up doing, I had a character that I said I wanted to do kind of like a redraw, because I just for some reason did not like the drawing that I ended up doing. So this character is from Ebru, and I've drawn their character in the previous session for drawing this character in your style type video, or not drawing this character in your style, drawing your OCs video. It was kind of from, I think it's from 2 months ago, and I mentioned at the very end of the video, or maybe when I was actually painting and drawing the character, that I did not like how I drew the character. I don't know if it's just like the face or the angle or something. So everything I pretty much kept very similar and the same. It did change the hands ever so slightly, but I think expression wise and her face, I think it just turned out a little bit cuter. So hopefully this is a little bit of a redemption. I know some people might like the original version, but I think I like this one a little bit more. But yeah, so ended up drawing 5 characters, technically these 4, and then the last one as a small redemption on my part. Yeah, feel free to submit your OCs again in the community tab on my YouTube channel page, whichever, and make sure to not submit more than 4 per post, and do not spam characters. Thank you, and I'll talk to you guys next time in the next video. Bye!